So JT, I see that you have some what's it, college football games you want to talk about. You want to talk about, bleeze in with Georgia and
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
going on there?
Through the first 2 weeks, or the last 2 weeks of the season so far, Georgia has looked bad. They struggled against a Kent State team that had one win to that point, and then the next week they play Missouri, who also has a losing record and barely pulled out a touchdown late to win that game. So I'm worried about Georgia. They got a decent game coming up this week. So maybe they drop a game. I think Auburn's better than Missouri. And if they continue to play like this is going to be a Georgia team that's going to lose one or two games this year. They still got Tennessee to play coming up. They still have Kentucky. They still got Florida. So they got some teams that can beat them.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, especially with, playing Auburn, next week. They're like one of those like dark horses in the SEC where they can come out and they can stun, those top teams every year.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so there's someone you can't like overlook. No matter how bad Auburn has been to this point, they're still going to come out and play a hard game because it's Georgia, or like if they're playing it's Alabama. Like they always come out and they play tough in those two games. And with Georgia not being able to put up, they scored points last week, but they weren't able to put up like very many touchdowns. There's a lot of field goals.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, playing an SEC game, like it's hard if you're not scoring touchdowns. You got to be really, really stout on defense. I don't know if they can keep it up for 4 quarters against Auburn.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that statement. They'd had to take way too many field goals against a Missouri team that normally will give up a lot of points to those bigger teams in the SEC, to the Alabamas and the Georgias. And I mean, give Missouri credit; they played a hell of a game, but Georgia's got to figure out their offense. The only way they have been able to get their offense rolling this year is to get their tight end involved. At some point, someone else is going to have to make plays.
Oh,
They're definitely not
absolutely.
playing like a top 5 team.
No,
No.
Like
definitely not.
absolutely
And
not.
and they even dropped in the AP ranking this past week. They
Yeah,
dropped
they
from number
dropped
one. I mean, it's only the number
the
two,
number
but
two, but I still don't see how they're still ranked above Ohio State. Georgia has shown nothing this year other than struggles against inferior opponents, and they're still getting praised like they're one of the best teams in the country. Like, I'm not saying drop them down to 10, but this team does not deserve to be number one, number two right now.
oh yeah, no, I agree with that. I feel like we should see,
This is maybe number 5 on a top 5, maybe a number 6. That's how they're playing right now. If they're not being able to move the ball against inferior teams, and they're having nail biter games against teams that they should just blow out of the stadium.
Yeah, to me, I would drop them down to the 4 to 5 range until they start proving something. Because right now, they haven't proved anything other than they can squeak out wins against teams that they should dominate. And what that tells
Yeah.
me is when they go and play Tennessee, they're not going to be able to squeak away that win, and they're going to lose.
yeah, I
Yeah.
see, I see. All right, JT. Um, you have it written down that you think that you wanted to ask a question: can Auburn upset the struggling Georgia offense? I know we kind of already talked about that, but like, what's your like official take on that?
I think Georgia still wins this game. I don't like this Auburn team this year. They got blown out at home by Penn State. To me, Georgia's still better than Penn State. I see this as a game Georgia should win big, but if they're playing like they played the past couple of weeks, this will be a close game. But I still expect Georgia to squeak it out.
All right, I see that. Yeah, I kind of have that same opinion. Where it's going to be a closer game than it should be, but
Yeah,
obviously Georgia is the better team compared to Auburn.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
So the next
Yeah,
thing I want to bring
absolutely.
up for your boys, a big injury happened last week. Bryce Young got tackled down on his shoulder pretty hard. He ended up leaving the game. He didn't return. Alabama has a tough game this week. Now it's a Texas A&M team that struggled at times, but Bryce Young is a game time decision. Does this set up for Alabama to get upset at home this week?
I feel like that's tough. I
Who's their
mean,
backup quarterback?
He's
I don't
a
I don't
he's a
remember
freshman, I think.
I don't remember his name, but he did rip a couple big runs, or he ripped that one big run right after he came in this past week. it's it's unsure because we have an unproven rookie basically rookie quarterback hopping into this Bama offense, but I feel like he's athletic enough that he'll be able to make up for some of that experience that he doesn't have that Bryce Young did have.
Okay.
So I still think that they can at least squeak a win out this week while Bryce Young is hurt. If he doesn't play.
See, I don't
Okay.
think so. See, my issue with mobile quarterbacks is like they don't have that kind of pocket awareness to like step up and make that throw. They're going to want to take off. He's probably going to miss some chances downfield to score some points. I think that Georgia is
Not
or
Georgia.
Alabama's maybe to get
Yeah.
upset.
So
Yeah, I think Alabama's maybe to get upset.
So if Bryce Young doesn't play, Jalen Milroe will get the start. He's a 4-star freshman from Texas. He is a dual threat, so he can move a little bit. Last week against Arkansas, he had 151 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and a pick. But Alabama was really carried late in that game to expand that lead and to secure the win by their run game. So I think if Bryce Young doesn't play and Texas A&M can keep that run game in check, this is a mixture for an upset.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see that.
All right, boys. I want to get to another team, Arkansas. There was a lot of hope for this team going into the year. They started out 3-0, and then they lost to Texas A&M and to Alabama back-to-back weeks. Does Arkansas get back on track against a Mississippi State team that just made the top 25?
I have to say yes. I think Arkansas is still too good of a team to drop a third game in a row. They're gonna do something. They're gonna figure out what's going on, and they're gonna make some adjustments, and they're gonna come out. May it still be a close game with Mississippi State? Yeah, probably, but I feel like they're gonna still be able to squeak the win out against Mississippi State today. Or
I agree with that. I think Mike Leach has a tough offense to run in the SEC. That air raid offense is kind of it's a risk reward football there. Either you're going to win some big games because you're able to break out some big plays off of those screens and stuff that he uses as his run game, or you're going to get blown out by the Alabamas and those good teams in the SEC. I still think Arkansas is a top 20 team in college football. They had a really bad game against Texas A&M. They choked that game at multiple stages, special teams, defense let up big plays, offense turned the football over. So I think if that game is played more, Arkansas beats Texas A&M. Texas A&M had their number on that day. Bama's just better than Arkansas.
Yeah.
I think Arkansas gets back on track this week.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
So hopping into a couple of the matchups this week. The first one I want to talk about, 2 teams that just moved into the top 25, both unbeaten teams out of the Big 12. TCU is traveling to Kansas, number 17 versus 19. How are you guys feeling about this game?
So,
I usually like TCU in matchups like this.
Okay.
TCU, whenever they break into that like lower tier of like the top 25 power rankings, TCU is usually not a team that you can just kind of go in there and like think you're just gonna we've got TCU this week. It's gonna be an easy game. TCU likes to play a physical brand of football.
Yeah, and I really like TCU's coach. I don't trust this Kansas team. I don't feel like they've played a good program. TCU blew out Oklahoma last week. Oklahoma has had their struggles this year, but they're still a solid team. I'm taking TCU on the road this week.
Now, if they're playing at TCU, I would 100% give this game to TCU. But I feel they're going into Kansas, and Kansas has been fired up lately. About trying to prove that they're not just that they have a good football team as well. They're not just all about basketball. So I feel like because of the fact that we're going into Kansas Stadium and not going to TCU, I have to give the advantage over to Kansas in this game. They're two very gritty teams, and I feel like the home advantage is what's going to make the difference, in this game.
Let me see, because I know Kansas fans were going crazy asking for College Game Day to show up for the first time in history. So I'm checking. I want to see where Game Day is traveling to. They're going to this game. College game day is
Ah.
traveling to Kansas for the first time in history.
Okay.
It's really crazy. That's what I'm saying. Like the fans are gonna be hyped.
pretty
Like it's
wild.
gonna be electric in that stadium. And I feel like being TCU, you're gonna feel that pressure of the Kansas fan section, and and hear that crowd roar. I feel like it's gonna be tough for them to communicate on offense and get the job done.
Okay. All right. The next game I want to talk about, we touched on it a little bit. Texas A&M traveling to Bama. What's your guys' takes on this?
Bama, 100%. It's no question.
It's still
It's
hard
still
to,
an Alabama-led team.
Yeah.
It's still hard to go against Alabama. It just is.
And Bama's always been good in the run game, So they may just have to rely on it a little bit more, but I feel like Texas A&M's not going to be able to shut them down as well as everyone thinks they are. Yeah, I got to give this to Bama.
Okay. Yeah. For me,
I don't want to sound ignorant, right? Whenever I'm like their quarterback and their offensive scheme, it doesn't really matter who it is, kind of.
Okay.
In my
they've gotten
opinion,
a little
because
bit
they
more
run the
pass
football
heavy
so
in the
well.
past couple of years.
Yeah. Well, that's only because you had
Yeah, but
like
they've
Tua
always
and
been able
Mac
to run the football
Jones.
so well.
You got away from Jalen Hurts, who really was a scrambler. But then they got Tua and Mac, who slung the football a little bit more. And now with Bryce Young, who also throws a bunch.
Yeah. So for me, if Bryce Young plays, Bama wins. If Bryce Young doesn't play, I think it could be a close game, but I'm still rolling with Bama.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. The next game, we got another top 25 matchup here. We got number 11 ranked 4-1 Utah traveling to UCLA, who is ranked 18 and undefeated at the time. You guys taking Chip Kelly, or are you rolling with the Utes?
I'm sticking with Chip.
Yeah, I think this is a tough matchup to talk about. I feel like Utah hasn't been as hot as everyone had hoped they would be. They're still holding that number 11 position, but it's just some of the matchups they've gotten. So I'm not to say I think UCLA will be able to squeak a win out.
Okay.
And that's just what I think.
I'm going to go UCLA with you, Dan. Thompson Robinson at quarterback for Chip Kelly has been playing out of his mind this year. He's a veteran guy. He's been with Chip basically from the start since Chip went to UCLA. The kid is starting to looking like he's going to have a breakout year this year. He's making plays on the ground. He's making great throws. He's taking care of the football. I think UCLA gets the upset.
All right.
All right, the next game. This is another top 25 matchup, but it's not really a top 25 matchup. Number 8 Tennessee is traveling to Baton Rouge to play 25 ranked LSU. For me, not a hard game. LSU's only played one good team so far this year. It was Texas A&M. They lost that game. I think this Tennessee team is better than that Texas A&M team. I'm taking Tennessee.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there too. I think Tennessee.
I also gotta agree with that.
Be the stronger team in this matchup. Like you said, you've seen LSU play against some tougher teams, and they've already fallen a couple of times. They've fallen once, but the Volunteers, they're looking good this season.
Yeah.
And the LSU defense isn't what it is, and they don't have some crazy receivers. They're just kind of skirting along some of the leftover talent that they've had.
Right. And part of my bias towards not liking LSU is I'm not a big Brian Kelly fan. When he was with Notre Dame, yeah, they were winning games, but you're an independent team. You're playing against 8 cupcakes a year, and he's winning 10, 11 games. When he did make the playoffs, he gets blown out. His offense always struggles. His defense is always pretty good once he can recruit. And it's just not a mixture for the SEC, I don't think. I just expect him to lose a lot of big games here.
Yeah. They don't have, like you said, they don't have those, high profile, defensive players yet that, work in his system. So, it'll be a struggle for him to, lock out some of these teams.
So we got the last game here that I want to talk about for college football this weekend. Ohio State's traveling to Michigan State. Ohio State's looked elite, but Michigan State, on the other hand, has not looked great this year. Is this a game where they can come out and stun Ohio State? Get the run game going. That defense plays like a typical Michigan State defense, or is this going to be more of the same this year, an Ohio State blowout win?
I'm going to say we're gonna see another Ohio State blowout win. As much as I think, I think Michigan State's one of those teams that can come out and stun any team. This Ohio State team has just been too explosive. I've watched some of the plays. They got defenses looking like absolutely stupid out there. DBs don't know what assignments are going on.
Right.
And so, that offense is just too good. Even if the Michigan gets a run game going, it's not going to slow down CJ Stroud and that Ohio State offense.
Yeah, and Ohio State might get the last couple of games. Ohio State hasn't played with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Last game, they didn't play with Henderson, their best running back. So your best two weapons on offense didn't play last game. And you still had a blowout win. Offense looked great. To me, this Ohio State team is not going to get stopped in the Big Ten. This is a team that's competing for a championship this year. I feel like they're the best team in the country right now. I think this is a blowout win.
Yeah, more of the same. I think it could be a blowout win, but like usually this is one of the games I like to watch closely because in the past Michigan State has sometimes had our number and the game has been close.
Yeah.
So like this is definitely one of the games that I kind of circle on the schedule to watch kind of closely because like who knows what Michigan State team's going to show up this week.
Yeah, Ohio State can't not prepare for this team. Even if they think they're going to get a blowout, they can't come in and be like, well, this is a bad Michigan State team. They still have to come out. They still have to work hard all week at practice, in order to make sure that they have that win.
Absolutely.
If they ever go by 28 points, the game's over.
I mean, I think that's a big thing. If Ohio State's able to get that honestly, I feel like even a 2-touchdown lead in that game, I feel like the game's over. If Michigan State's able to keep that game close, maybe even make a defensive play, steal a possession, get a touchdown on defense, take a lead against Ohio State, they have a chance. But if they give up a couple scores early, the game's in the book.
Too hard for Michigan State to come from behind.
Yeah. So I want to make a big jump to the NBA. We've had some wild things happen in the NBA the past couple days. One, Mr. Bruce, I know you're a Devin Booker fan. You like Devin Booker.
Hell yeah, D-Book, he's a man, bro.
The Suns played against an Australian team, the 36ers in preseason, and lost.
Okay.
So the Suns lost
right.
to an Australian professional basketball team of 134 to 124. Now, all the starters for the Suns only played 22 minutes. But Devin Booker, it was a full game, but the starters only played for 22 minutes. So the starters didn't even play for half the game. But Devin Booker in those 22 minutes only had 13 points. They lose the game, and then Devin Booker tweets out the video of LeBron James talking about his finals loss to the Mavericks. Is this worrisome for the Suns looking forward, or is this just one of those preseason games you just forget about it? The Suns are going to be okay.
No, I think if Devin Booker feels the need to voice something about it on Twitter, I feel like it's maybe something the Suns need to think about. Like, hey, well, he's obviously not happy about this one situation that wasn't really a game that we actually had to be concerned with the result of. But he, by sending that tweet out, he kind of sends a mixed message to the club that drafted him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. Dan, do you got a take on this pretty bad loss for the Suns?
Here's the this, regardless, we've just come to expect that the American teams are better than everyone else in basketball. But in reality, like we've seen recently in the FIBA and the Olympics that that there are other good teams out there, playing, because these teams have, still have good talent, not as elite as the NBA, but without the starters playing the full time or playing their full rotations, I could see them losing. But like Mr. Bruce said, it is worrisome to see that Devin Booker is taking this a little bit to heart that is concerning for the Suns' future. Maybe not this season, but in the future, you could be something to look out for.
Yeah, I still think this is a Suns team that's probably going to make the playoffs. Chris Paul is too good. Devin Booker can score the basketball at will. All right, my problem with the Suns, with this team, is yes, you have an elite point guard in Chris Paul. You have an elite shooting guard in Devin Booker. So right there, you got two really good players. But the issues with that team all stems around DeAndre Ayton. That was a horrible draft for them. He's a center who can't guard other athletic centers. They got in the matchup with Milwaukee. He had to guard Giannis. Giannis bullied him at all aspects of the game. You can't be the first overall pick center and get bullied by a power forward. Like, yes, the Greek Freak is nasty, but he's a center who can't guard the athletic centers, the Anthony Davises, the Jaren Jacksons. He can't go out there and guard those guys that can shoot. He's a mismatch problem. And the fact is, the year the Suns drafted DeAndre Ayton, they took him first overall ahead of Luka, Trae Young, Jaren Jackson. All these guys are way more versatile to a team. Like, yeah, I know a couple years later they brought in Chris Paul, but would you not rather have Luka than Chris Paul?
Or even Trae Young and Devin Booker would be nasty.
Right. The Suns have not drafted well. They're drafting not to beat other teams, but to try to fit a team around Devin Booker. And what they've realized now is they're getting against teams, the Mavericks in the playoffs last year. What'd they do? They went small ball. Took DeAndre Ayton out the game, and Luka went off. He went crazy because you got no one to guard, no one to rim protect, because DeAndre Ayton can't go guard those stretch bigs. So you got to take him out the game. It's the same issue as Rudy Gobert. He can't go out there and guard those stretch bigs. So he's great in the regular season when no one's playing defense and, playing the best basketball. But the second they get to the playoffs, the Suns are not going to win a championship with DeAndre Ayton. It's just a simple fact. They've had issues with him. And another big piece of this team, Jay Crowder is not with the team this year. Jay Crowder has been a great rotation piece for them. He's looking for a buyout. He doesn't want to be in Phoenix anymore. And I think that's, gets back to Bruce's point. It's a tell. I think this roster's having some issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel like with DeAndre Ayton, one of the big things is, like you were saying, like there's a lot of defenses that they can't call when DeAndre Ayton's out on the floor. And, it forces them to sit in some of these, these certain sets on defense, which, allows other teams to scheme around, especially, just because, the Phoenix Suns have 60 wins in a regular season, they hit that postseason, and everyone's like, all right, cool, they're going to sit in this type of zone, or, DeAndre Ayton's not coming out or whatever. So you force those, the matches you want, and allows.
And in the regular season, it's a lot more running plays and running sets. In the postseason, it's more one-on-one matchups and which stars are going to win their matchups.
Yeah.
And the problem is you got DeAndre Ayton who can't guard the stretch big. So teams go small ball on you. So then you have to go small ball in return. And you got to bring in a smaller forward to come in and match up with it. And now you're leaving Chris Paul, who is a pretty good defender, but he's a small guard. Devin Booker is a small guard. So now you're left playing small ball with two really small guards, and then you get bullied because of it. Where the Warriors get away with playing small ball because Klay Thompson is 6'7".
Exactly. And
it's not the same.
And they had Sean Livingston before that, who had, a 6'10" wingspan and could guard anyone in the league. So they have drafted correctly to play this small ball system. Whereas, like, a lot of teams, have their regular season teams and then aren't set up for the playoffs.
No, for sure. It's the one thing that worries me about, like, the Cavs this year. You look back in the past couple of years, the teams that have the small backcourt, the small shooting guard and point guard, they don't win in the playoffs. You look at Portland, CJ McCollum and Dame, two small guards. You're able to maybe win a round or two, but you're not going to win the finals because you're too small. The Cavs are in that same boat. Donovan Mitchell's a small guard. Yes, he has a 6'10" wingspan, but it was only like 6'1" or 6'2".
Yeah.
Garland's 6 foot. You still have a really small backcourt, and you have to rely. You're gonna have to rely on Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley to make up for the fact that you have a super small backcourt.
Absolutely. I feel like with some of these teams, they don't have as athletic pieces at small forward and power forward. Whereas like you were talking about the Warriors, Andre Wiggins is super athletic. Draymond Green, while still being an undersized power forward, is still extremely aggressive and makes up for his lack of height.
And he's a
with how
great
he
defender.
plays.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, getting to the Warriors, talking about your team, Dan, the bandwagon Warrior fan. Draymond Green punched Jordan Poole in practice yesterday. Does that spell trouble from the defending NBA champions?
I feel like it does because, as good as Steph and Clay are, they're not going to be around forever. And you want Jordan Poole to feel welcome there. Is he as good as Steph Curry and, Klay Thompson? That's yet to show with his shooting. He's played pretty good so far. But if he doesn't feel welcome, he's not going to want to stay, and he'll leave before Curry and Clay are gone, leaving a big hole to fill, whereas like Jordan Poole could step up to that role. So, it makes you wonder what other issues are being hidden by the Warriors organization, and is that locker room as good as everyone thinks it is, or is it just, the core of Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson getting along, and everyone else kind of just, being extra pieces around them?
Yeah, and that's definitely a possibility. My problem with this situation is you have Draymond Green, who wanted a contract extension in the offseason. There was little communication with that between him and the team. They got nowhere with it. He's under contract for this year. He can opt out of his contract at the end of this year and become a free agent. I don't expect him to do that. I don't see him wanting to leave the Warriors. It's kind of that perfect fit for him, even though he's drastically fallen off on the offensive end. My issue is I feel like the Warriors are about to give Jordan Poole a bag, and I don't think he has earned it. You look at guys like Tyler Hero, just got paid a fat contract in the same draft class as Jordan Poole. He's earned it. He's played well. He played great during a finals run for them. Like, yes, they lost in the NBA Finals, but he played great during that run. To me, Jordan Poole is a factor of the system. He gets his stats because you have to focus on Steph and Clay. And so Jordan Poole is an idiot if he doesn't re-sign with the Warriors. But, getting back to what you said, Steph and Clay are not going to be around forever. And I don't see Jordan Poole continuing production once they either their game falls off or they have retired or they're not on the team anymore. And if Jordan Poole goes to another team, I expect him to fall off. I don't expect him to be able to continue the production that he's had with the Warriors.
Yeah, so the other thing, talk about
I see
contracts
that.
is, not saying that Jordan Poole is going to get a supermax contract like Steph Curry did after his second MVP. I don't know if it was supermax, but it was the highest contract for a point guard at the time.
Yeah.
But Curry didn't ask for that until after he had won 2 MVPs, one of them unanimous, and a finals. Jordan Poole kind of just rode that team to the finals. Yeah, he helped out when Curry was hurt, but he wasn't the reason that they won.
Yeah, so Tyler Hero just signed a 4-year, $130 million contract. It is expected that Jordan Poole will get the same.
Jordan Poole's he's an unproven product right now.
Yeah.
Whenever they tried to put him in situations to be good with the ball, he came up short a lot of the time. He's not, he still doesn't have that court awareness and readiness to be able to make those kind of decisions and like run the offense.
Yeah. Now, he had a good stretch when Curry was hurt. I'm not going to take that away from him. But I look at Jordan Poole, and there is no way that this kid deserves a $32.5 million contract
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah,
If he gets it,
I
I'm
don't
not
think
gonna
so
I'm not
either.
gonna hate on him. Chase your bag, get your money. But the Warriors are stupid if they sign him to that.
Yeah. Especially since like it seems like he flows with some of the younger guys, but there was many times where I saw Clay, wide open for a three, where Curry would have passed, to Clay, that Jordan Poole was just jacking up a shot in double coverage. And, is this money going to hurt them down the
Oh,
road
for sure.
where they
100%.
can't pay some of these, old veterans to come back and, help keep that team good till they can get the young stars in?
Yeah, I mean, if they give Jordan Poole
I
this
think
contract,
Andrew Wiggins is a real core piece of that team.
yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
and that's where the issues come in. If you give Jordan Poole this contract with Steph and Clay's contracts, if Draymond doesn't opt out, you still have to pay Draymond's contract, which is still like $30 million a year.
Yeah.
So you get into a situation where now you have to let Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga and James Wiseman, you got to let these guys go. And
Yeah.
it's going to end up hurting that team because you're going to lose size to re-sign another 6'2" guard.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the next thing, we got a draft prospect here. Out of France, he's been talked about for the past couple of years, but he's coming into his own. Victor Yama. He's a 7'4" center from France. Now he is small. He's only 210 pounds, but he's got guard-like skills at the center position. You see him crossing dudes over, hitting step-back threes, posterizing people, rim protecting. Is he the next generational talent to hit the NBA, or is he too small to survive?
I feel like he kind of falls in that the area with Chet Holmgren, where like Chet kind of already had a little bit of an injury, early, just because he is, Chet's 7 foot, 109 pounds, super light, big dude, great handles, great shot. But I feel like being 210, like he's gonna face some of those bigger centers. Like LeBron's not a center. LeBron has 50 pounds on him.
Yeah,
and I feel like that.
You look at some of those matchups he can get, like you said. If he has to match up against Giannis or Zion, or he's got to go match up against a Jokic, what's going to happen? Jokic is going to big body him.
Yeah, Jokic doesn't dunk, but Jokic might decide that he wants to, yam on this kid real quick,
He'll hit the hook shot on this kid all night.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's going to hit fadeaways and everything on him, yeah.
I feel like it's kind of remember how Giannis was when he first came into the league?
Yeah.
The Bucks drafted him. He's a real skinny kid, and I feel like if he wants to be successful in the league, he's going to kind of take the same career trajectory as Giannis Antetokounmpo. But he's going to have to put in that work and put on a little bit of size and muscle and see if he can work on some of that explosiveness with that size, and if he can move the way he can and add a little bit more size to that frame, he definitely has a chance to be like a generational talent.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm thinking, I'm not talking he needs to spit on, 50, 60 pounds, but I think if he puts on another 10, 15 pounds where he can, get in the low post, defend or offense.
If he could get to 230 and just be muscle he puts on, yeah.
Yeah, I think he definitely becomes, elite and, is good for a while in the league.
Yeah. Now the question is, because a lot of bigs struggle to shoot once they've gotten really strong, because it's a lower trajectory shot that they have to shoot. If he does put on that weight, now Giannis was never really a shooter, so it didn't impact him as much. Do you think that plays a part into that, or do you think that doesn't matter?
I feel like if he just goes straight into it, it could. But I mean, he's already as you're saying, he's already a decent shooter as is, and I feel like if he puts on, say a couple of pounds a year in muscle, he'll be able to just work right through it, and it won't really change his shot.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
If they try to force him over one summer to bulk up, he'll feel tight. He won't be able to move as well. So I feel like they need to let him grow into it. It may be some growing pains for the first year or so, but I feel like like they said with Mr. Brousseau with Giannis. Like he was real skinny early, and he kind of worked his way up in weight, didn't just jump up real quick. I feel like you might have to do that with this kid.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was all we have for the NBA. We're gonna take a jump to the NFL. Now, the Thursday night game.
Let's go.
The Thursday night game is being played right now. So we all bet, in our pickems that Denver was gonna win. Now Denver is winning 6-9 right now. It is an ugly game. 50 seconds left in the fourth. The Colts are getting to field goal range, so we're gonna kind of see how that goes. But jumping into some of the other topics, is Cooper Rush better than Dak? The offense seems to look a little bit more stable under Cooper Rush.
I
think Cooper Rush played a little bit better because Michael Gallup was back in the lineup.
But I mean, Cooper Rush is 3-0.
I'm aware of that, but I feel like he
with
played
that
last
same
game.
team.
He played better because
Where the first week with the Bucks, Dak looked horrific, and he had Tyron Smith playing. Tyron Smith gets hurt, and Cooper Rush is playing better. So the offensive line is worse. He still doesn't have receivers, and he's getting wins.
Yeah, I feel like
maybe it's time. Give the kid the reins.
It might be time to let Cooper Rush take over. I feel that he just doesn't have this as big as pressure because he knows he's only a backup. He's not sitting with this $40 million contract that he just, basically begged the Cowboys for.
Yeah.
And I feel like he comes out, he plays the games, and he's just a little bit smoother with it because it's it's just he's just there. He knows he's not the starter, but he knows he needs to get out there and win games to keep the team competitive.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just feel there's a little bit less pressure on Cooper Rush than there is on Dak.
Oh, I mean, definitely for sure. People don't expect Cooper Rush to win, but he's still getting wins. He's playing smart football, hasn't really turned the ball over, where you can't say that about Dak, especially in key moments. It seems like he isn't able to come up with that big play.
Yeah, maybe he's just not hot.
The case sometimes.
He's just not hot. That's just not what it is. Dak was a waste of money, waste of a pick. But I mean, then again, look at Dak. Year one, where Dak was electric.
I wouldn't go as far to say that he was a waste of a pick. I mean, he definitely came in and played out of his mind.
I was about to say, Skip Bayless just had a heart attack hearing you say that.
But
yeah.
I think the injuries, especially that ankle injury, Dak is not the same player.
Absolutely
and unfortunately, he has way too big of a contract for you to move on from.
Yeah. He's running scared. He really is. He's running scared.
But the thing is, that's what sucks about, some of these QBs is this is their livelihood. And so, we see Mariota look scared for a couple of years until he finally got to the Falcons, where he's starting to look like the Mariota of college. Same thing with Derek Carr after he broke his leg. He hasn't been the same. No, that was a Derek Carr that was winning 12 games. Now we're like
that was also a Derek Carr with Khalil Mack playing out of his mind.
True.
Khalil Mack was playing out of his mind. He gave Derek Carr so many more chances.
Okay, but I mean, Dak has Michael Parsons right now, and DeMarcus Lawrence on both edges, who are if you say neither one of them is as good as prime Khalil Mack, together that pass rush has to be better than a single great pass rusher from Khalil Mack.
I'll say it. I think Khalil Mack's a better pass rusher than Michael Parsons in his prime.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying there's two good pass rushers on both edges, so they should be able to collapse the pocket better than just Khalil Mack.
Yeah, they should, but
I'm not saying it happens.
The Cowboys defense, don't get me wrong, has definitely played a lot better than they did week one. Over these past 3 games, the defense has played pretty solid, but Cooper Rush is being a game manager. Look at that Bengals game. His first start of the season. He gets that ball. They need to get a field goal. He marches down the field, dot after dot after dot. They get a field goal. They win the game. I question, do they get that field goal with Dak?
I'd say no. I feel like, Dak, Dak's a little a little too confident, his abilities sometimes, and that's why Cooper Rush is better because he knows, maybe I'm not that good. So he goes, all right, cool. Let's take this, safe throw to the tight end versus, taking a deep shot to, a single or double covered CeeDee Lamb and hoping he can make a play.
Yeah.
Whereas we've seen Dak try to rip those footballs to him or Amari Cooper or Michael Gallup.
No, for sure. The next thing I want to talk about is the Lions. The Lions a little bit. I want to talk about a player, and then I want to talk about the team. The Lions team over the past 2 years, I have felt like this is elite coaching out of the Lions. The problem is they don't have the talent on all phases to win games right now. You got Jared Goff starting at quarterback. Yeah, he's played pretty good, but you'd like to have a better quarterback. He's still a mid-level quarterback in the NFL. Your running back, DeAndre Swift, can't stay healthy, hasn't played a full season in his career. Your wide receivers, the first year last year with the Lions were bad. Other than Amon-Ra St. Brown. This year, Amon-Ra St. Brown, your first-round pick, Jamison Williams, has yet to play, recovering from that ACL injury. So, to me, this is a team that's competing in games that they shouldn't be competing in. They're punching way above their weight class, and I think if they're able to get some more talent on that team, this is a Lions coaching staff that could win a Super Bowl.
I'm just saying, punchers always have a chance, and that's how I feel about that's a little boxing reference, but I feel that's how I feel with the Lions. Like, they're a puncher. They're gonna get out. They're gonna fight in the trenches. They're gonna get those hard plays. We see they have the best offense in the league, but they've also let up. By best offensive league, I mean like they've produced the most points through this many weeks.
Yeah, well, they've had to.
They've had to
because their defense is Swiss cheese.
And so I feel like this is an offense that you could see that could make a run of the playoffs, but there's a couple pieces in that defense that just aren't there. They don't really have a crazy pass
I don't know,
rush.
man. I mean, they did get Aiden Hutchinson, and I mean, he is a rookie.
He's played solid, but the problem is there's no help on that other side of the line. Their safety room is very weak.
Yeah.
And Jeff Okuda hasn't really developed either.
So I want to get into talking about Jeff Okuda. So through 4 weeks this season,
is he playing crazy?
He held Devontae Smith in week 1 to 0 catches. He held Scary Terry in week 2 to 2 catches for 22 yards. And then in week 3, in a matchup against Justin Jefferson, he gave up 3 catches for 14 yards. And in that game, I saw an advanced metric stat. He was lined up against Justin Jefferson 32 times that game in pass coverage. He pressed Justin Jefferson 23 of those plays. And only gave up 3 catches.
Sounds like Jeff Okuda's turning a corner.
Now, going into week 4, DK Metcalf had some wild statements in the media leading up to the Lions game. He said, he was asked, how do you prepare going up against a lockdown corner? And he said, I don't see a lockdown corner on the other side of the field. He always has safety help over the top. He's not locking people up. He's a good corner.
All right.
In that game, in the week 4 matchup, DK Metcalf did get 3 catches for 101 yards on Jeff Okuda. Now, DK had 160 for the game. So he was kind of beating everybody. He got Jeff Okuda on a 54-yard catch. But is this a Jeff Okuda that is back to his college form? The no defensive penalties, press man corner, lock you up? Or is DK right and Jeff Okuda was strapping up against those wide receivers because he always had safety?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, DK Metcalf is just like a physical specimen on the football field. Like he is just large and
Absolutely.
fast. So I mean, there's definitely a height difference there between him guarding DK Metcalf, who is an elite receiver in the NFL, and him guarding Justin Jefferson, who is somebody who's a little bit closer to his size.
It's not a big matchup. Jeff Okuda is, I believe he's 6'1", DK 6'3". So it's not a huge size difference, but there is a size difference. And I would say DK is much faster than Jeff Okuda. You know, Jeff is an athletic corner, but DK is more athletic than him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just has some real good speed. He got some wheels on him.
Yeah. And so Motor City Dan Campbell did come out and say about Jeff Okuda's performance through this season that he is playing daring quarterbacks to throw at him. So if Jeff is taking that attitude, you know, coming off, he had a pretty big injury last year, coming off that injury, coming back, or he had a pretty big injury his rookie year. Last year he struggled. Is he kind of stepping up back into that college form?
I'd like to say so, yes. And it'd be a real good change of pace because I was kind of heartbroken whenever he got hurt his rookie year because he was a part of an elite defensive unit the year he got drafted.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's definitely kind of returned to form. I mean, it's always hard to guard a receiver who has 3 inches on you, and as weighs as much as DK does. I feel like JJ is a better receiver all around than DK is. You know, sometimes you just have those rough games where you get bullied off the ball. Covering DK is more like covering a tight end than he is covering a receiver.
Yeah. Now, I did go through that Seahawks film with Jeff Okuda. Yes, he got beat a couple times, but in that game, he was still consistently pressing DK, and there were a lot of routes where he was able to press DK and be physical enough with DK, through his route that by the time DK was able to get separation from the press, the quarterback had already moved on through the progression. So I think this is just one of those matchups where it's a good young corner versus a savvy veteran wide receiver, and he's just going to get you a couple times.
Yeah.
So
it's like any of these young corners, if they got guarded up against Steve Smith Sr., he would beat them at least once, twice. It happens. It comes to being a vet. It just does.
Yeah. And you go out here and you put a young corner on Cooper Kupp, he's gonna beat you.
He's gonna get abused.
Yeah,
it's just gonna happen.
It's just what happens to the NFL. It's very rare to see a corner come into the NFL as a rookie and be elite, or even in that first or second year. You don't see it very often. Pat Surtain, you could say, fits into that description of year one, he was that guy. But it's pretty rare. Jeff had definitely a bad start to his rookie year, had the injury and all that. I like to say he's getting back to form.
All right.
Let's hope so.
So the next thing I want to talk about, and it hurts to talk about this a little bit. My Browns lost to the Falcons last week.
Got him.
The Falcons. I want to present a question to you boys. Have the Falcons found their identity? Are they now an elite run offense, or was this a fluke with Myles Garrett and Clowney being out, Anthony Walker missing at linebacker, and they took advantage of that? They didn't pass the ball well in that game, but they did have 35 carries as a team for 202 yards and 2 tuds. They averaged just under 6 yards a carry as a team.
Yeah, I think that the Falcons are kind of becoming more of a rushing team. They had success with Cordell Patterson last year. They brought in a running quarterback. I feel like they want to run the football. They want to run the option, maybe some QB design plays. And so you're going to see them try to, use some of these weapons on the ground, to run the ball and be aggressive until Mariota can find his footing as a quarterback again.
Yeah. Now I do think if they continue this, it does hurt that their best offensive weapon Kyle Pitts. You look at
Yeah.
him through the first couple of games. Against the Seahawks, he had a good game, but then the other 3 weeks, he's done virtually nothing. He's not a great run blocker, but he is a physical specimen at tight end. 6'5", built like a wide receiver, speed of a wide receiver. You almost want to design an offense around that. And you running the ball like that, you're not going to get him involved. And I'd hate to see a great young player get hindered by being a complete non-scheme fit.
I feel like they're gonna scheme him in some more. They're just trying to find the baseline of that offense, and I feel like we're gonna see them scale down, the rushing attempts. I do think they did take a little bit of advantage that you had a bunch of key run stoppers out, but I feel like they're gonna be a run first team and a run heavy team, and then try to throw the ball out of.
Yeah. No, for sure. And the one thing you can say is Cordero Patterson got hurt in the first half and did not return.
Yeah.
And they took over the game running the ball in the second half behind their second and third string running backs. So if you can get good production, the Browns are the big key of that. If you can get great production out of your second and third running backs, your passing game can struggle and you're still going to be in a lot of games.
Absolutely.
It's kind of reminded me of the old Tevin Coleman, Devontae Freeman days down in Atlanta.
A little bit, yeah.
That
they
1-2
also
punch
had a
that they
passing
had.
game.
Yeah, but that run game was crazy.
It was pretty good. All right. The next and last player I want to talk about before we get into our injury segment, Jordan Poyer. Is he the best safety in the NFL right now? Through 4 games, he's got 12 tackles, 4 interceptions, 6 pass deflections, a tackle for loss, and he's only allowed 42 yards in coverage this season.
I'd say that he's the best coverage safety, guaranteed. But I don't know if he's the best all-around safety. That's because I don't know how well he plays up in the box, but he plays deep good with Mike. He played good deep with Micah Hyde, whoever he's playing with now. But I feel like he's a super lockdown safety, and he plays good deep. To say he's the best safety in the league right now might be a stretch. He's close. He's definitely, top 3. But I feel like you have to include Derwin in that conversation for number 1. He's playing good in the box. He's, breaking up passes.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think Xavier McKinney is the best safety in the league.
Yeah, that's because you're a Giants fan.
Shut the hell up. That's wild. Next, you're going to start telling me Julian Love's the second best safety in the NFL? Shut up.
Bro, Julian Love is basically a linebacker. What are you talking about?
Oh, literally the opposite. Literally the exact opposite. All right.
What do you mean he lays wood?
So speaking about Julian Love and your Giants, you guys, the injury report is not looking good. Leonard Williams,
absolutely
Kadarius Toney, Evan Neal, Daniel Jones, limited in practice this week. Kenny Golladay, Azeez Ojulari, Julian Love, Tyrod Taylor, no participant. So it's looking like you guys are going to have an injury-riddled game. You already lost Sterling Shepard for the year. Your other 2 wide receivers are on that list for injured. Both your quarterbacks are on that list.
Hey, we've got Davis Webb coming up from the practice squad. All right.
Yeah. Good luck.
You might be better with Saquon back there. That's probably why they had Odell in it. They want Odell to come throw passes for them.
Odell to come run fucking quarterback.
Yeah, we had some visits over the last couple of days, and 2 familiar faces came to the New York Giants stadium. We had Odell in the building. You see, I got the Odell jersey back on. Come home, please. And then also a familiar face, Landon Collins, was in the building, and we actually signed him to a contract, and he will be with the team for the game across the pond in London this week.
Nice.
Okay, but you have a big travel game this week. Like you said, you're playing in London. Huge travel game. It's going to be you're going to have jet lag and everything, and your team is injury riddled. Do you guys get a win in London this week?
I never bet against my football Giants whenever it comes to playing against Aaron Rodgers. Okay. I just don't. I get this weird gut feeling that Hey, we were able to beat Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers is basically the same thing.
All right.
Okay,
So,
okay.
like,
Interesting.
we
I don't
usually,
know if they're the same
we
now.
usually find. Well, no, definitely not now. But we definitely are usually able to find those quarterbacks like the sit and dink and dunk and pick the field apart. Usually, the defense will come together, especially with a veteran presence like Landon Collins coming back to the team, who's familiar with how things are done there. It's definitely going to kind of maybe give us a little bit more of an advantage. But I think the players to watch, I think Saquon Barkley, you got to have your eyes on him this game. Only player in the first three with 125 yards from scrimmage. Only player in the league that's done that. And I think Dexter Lawrence is going to play a big part of this defense. Definitely have to stuff some of that run game in there for us at DC.
Okay. So I'm not going to ask you, about your matchup because we're going to get to that later. So we'll move on to the next player I want to talk about, Tua. With his injuries, back-to-back weeks, hasn't participated in practice this week. They haven't found anything on the CTs to show a concussion, but they're talking back injury. I expect him to miss some time. Are the Dolphins going to be able to survive and win games with Teddy Bridgewater?
I have an outlandish statement to make real quick.
Okay, let's hear this.
I think Tua Tagovailoa should retire.
Okay, why? That's a wild statement.
So
why
was reading this article. So I was reading an article from a neuroscientist earlier in the week, and the neuroscientist said that after him getting a concussion in the first game, it came out later that the person who did the concussion eval on Tua Tagovailoa made multiple mistakes whenever he was doing his evaluation, and
he got fired
during this. Yes. But then during the second hit, he pretty much his body was just unable to have regular motor function. You saw what happened to his hands whenever that happened. And it put all that weight and damage and all the processing onto his brainstem whenever he fell down like this, and he was just pretty much knocked out. It's a very bad thing to happen to a football player. And I can't remember. And I can't really quote the article because I don't remember who wrote it, but the neuroscientist said that he probably shouldn't play football anymore after getting bounced like that 2 weeks back to back, especially with him losing his motor function the way he did after the second time he got slammed to the ground.
Okay.
But it could have caused some actual permanent brain damage to Tua, and I feel like he might be one more hard hit, one more slam down to the ground from maybe, possibly having some irreversible damage that could have been done to him.
Okay.
Absolutely, but I mean that's your thing when you play any downs of football. You always run that risk of being hurt. Until I feel like until he is the point where he knows he can't play, or a lot of people say it's unsafe, I feel like he should still continue to play.
Even your Patriots coach, Mr. Bill Belichick, he said that he definitely would not have played Tua that second game. He would have started him 4 days later to start a game. Oh,
I'm not agreeing with Mike McDaniels on starting him.
He's made the decision. He said just because a player gets medically cleared, if I still feel like he's not able to physically play football, I'm not going to have him out there. I feel like it was just a huge mismanagement of Tua Tagovailoa.
I mean, yeah, I definitely don't think, especially from the Dolphins medical staff, that whole situation was not handled well. I think if Tua wants to play, he's going to play. He's going to be able to find, even if the Dolphins don't let him play, he'll find somewhere else that'll let him play. He's proven, at least with this year, that, he can be a solid quarterback. So I just think he needs to at least sit out the next couple weeks, really heal, and then come back at full strength. He cannot rush this.
Oh, hey, I remembered who the guy who discovered CTE is the guy who wrote the article about Tua Tagovailoa.
Okay.
Yeah, that neuroscientist is the guy who wrote the article.
But rolling back to what JT asked is, does this injury affect the Dolphins' ability to win? I feel like yes.
Absolutely.
I got Teddy Two Goes playing. He's not as good as Tua is. He's kind of lost a step with all his injuries. Is Teddy Two Gloves still going to win some games? Yeah, but I don't think he's going to be as solid as Tua was back there this season.
Their
Yeah.
offense is built for a left-handed quarterback.
Well, I mean, that's easy to change. That's not super difficult. I do think this will cause them to lose a couple games here, and it definitely, if Tua misses a couple weeks, it will cause them to not win their division. If he's out for especially more than 3 weeks, the Bills are going to continue to do what the Bills are doing, and the Dolphins are not going to be able to catch up.
Yeah, the Bills will run away with the division real fast.
Absolutely. So jumping to another scary injury, J.J. Watt had some heart complications. We got very emotional talking about it, and the fact that he had a kid on the way, and he needs to be there for his kid. Do we see J.J. Watt retire or miss significant time? And if he does, how does that impact the Cardinals?
I feel like he definitely does retire. Probably at least at the end of the season. He's older. Not saying that he doesn't have some stuff left in the tank, but I feel like he's in that position where he realizes, he needs to make the decision. What's more important? Is his family more important to him, or is his football career? He's already had a good career, a couple DPOYs, second in the running for MVP.
Yeah.
He's done it. He's had a good career. I feel like we see J.J. Watt retire at the end of the season.
Definitely at the end of the season. I agree with that.
With the Cardinals, that definitely leaves a big gap. But I feel like if J.J. Watt can hang out to the end of the season, it gives him an opportunity to, draft someone or rebuild. And there's some good prospects in the draft always. Every year you find a couple really good people.
Yeah.
So I feel like, they can survive as long as he makes it to the end of the season.
My thought on J.J. Watt retiring is, can the Cardinals actually pull something together and play like the team they're capable of playing and being? Because, every Cardinals game, it's ugly.
I think they're going to take a step up once DeAndre Hopkins comes back.
I get
week
that.
7.
I get that, but you've got to win games without D Hop in the roster for you to be able to be a playoff team. Because D Hop, we might get hurt in a game. You know what I'm saying? If you can't move the ball, if your number one receiver gets hurt in the in the AFC Championship game, or if he gets hurt in the Conference Championship game or whatever, and you lose him for the next 3 quarters, is your offense just going to stop moving because you lost your best wide receiver?
I mean, I think you see with a lot of teams that have an elite wide receiver, and DeAndre Hopkins is an elite wide receiver, when they are not in the game, that offense suffers. And the Cardinals are no different. They've been able to find a way to win some games, though, and I think that's been very telling. Yes, it's been ugly, but they've been able to find a way to win. And if they can find a way to win, then once DeAndre Hopkins comes back, they just take that step forward.
Well, my thought is if they can't keep it, if this team at some point looks like they can't be a playoff contender, I could see J.J. Watt maybe retiring during the NFL season instead of waiting until the end of this team.
I think
for some reason falls out of being able to compete in the playoffs. Like if the 49ers rise and get, they play real well and the Rams run away the division, they find themselves at 3rd in the division at a 9-win team. J.J. Watt probably retires before the end of the season.
Probably. I can see that.
I can definitely see that, yeah. All right, so I want to jump to a rookie. He's been playing kind of nutty so far. Jahan Dotson was a no participant in practice this week. So far, through 4 games, Jahan Dotson has 4 touchdown catches. Last week, he had the only touchdown for the Commanders. If he doesn't play, it seems like Carson Wentz has not found his connection with Terry. Curtis Samuel was a limited participant, so he's not 100% healthy. If Jahan Dotson doesn't play, are we looking at a 1-4 Commanders?
That run game's got to be real good. Otherwise, if we won't be,
Yeah, I feel like they do drop to 1-4. Like Mr. Booth said, the running game has to be good, and that run game has not been there. They've been relying on, Carson
Yeah.
Wentz to throw the football and Johan Dotson catching a couple of those passing touchdowns. Like you said, like Scary Terry's not connecting real well. He's getting open, but both him and Johan Dotson got shut down by Trayvon Diggs because Carson Wentz is not making the correct throws.
Yeah.
He threw a pick to Trayvon Diggs that should have been thrown to the outside of the field, not the inside. And so I feel like with Johan Dotson being down, you're taking away one of Carson Wentz's targets that he wants to throw to, therefore causing them to drop. And if he's out next week, I could imagine him dropping to 1-5 as well.
My problem with Carson Wentz is that he plays hero ball, but he plays it bad.
That's a good explanation of that. So
Like, he can make some throws. He'll make a couple of good throws for you, but like he's not going to make the throw to win you the game or put that ball in the right spot at the end of the game when you get into a range. That's not who he is. He's going to go for the touchdown, and he's not going to put the ball in the right place more often than he will. And
absolutely.
It's just a bad brand of hero ball.
If you want to win the game with Carson Wentz, you have to put an elite team around him. Like the year where he led them to the playoffs and they ended up winning the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. That team was crazy around him. And he was able to play well because of that. He is a quarterback that has to be on a great team if you want great production.
Yeah.
So I want to jump to my team, the Browns. Not looking good on the injury report right now. JOK, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward were all limited this week. They're expected to play, but you never know.
I'm not surprised about Denzel Ward.
And then Clowney, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, and Joel Bitonio were all no participants today.
A couple of big names on that.
You're talking the best, the best left guard in football in Bitonio. David Njoku has been playing out of his mind at tight end the past couple games. Clowney hasn't played, so I'm really hoping he's going to get back onto the field soon. He's missed a couple weeks. It's good to see Myles Garrett after that serious car accident that he got in, rolled his car, was back at practicing, had a shoulder sprain, had a couple cuts, but luckily nothing serious. You'd hate to see a serious injury on let alone the best pass rusher in football or one of the best pass rushers in football, but any player. You want to see an injury-free league, but it's good to see him get back onto the field. Maybe he plays this week, but the Browns got a tough matchup this week. We got the Chargers. If we're going to miss all these guys on offense and defense this week, we're not beating
Jay
the
Herbo's
Chargers.
going to eat.
Yeah.
Jay Herbo's about to eat.
Oh, absolutely.
Austin Eckler is going to eat too.
Yeah, especially since, the Atlanta Falcons did so well last week. If a lot of these key players who are detrimental to stopping the run game are still out, I feel like you're going to struggle again. And the Chargers are going to be able to, let Jay Herbo fly because Austin Eckler's moving the football on the ground.
Yeah, and I didn't put that on there, but Taven Bryan and Jordan Elliott were both limited in practice this week as well, who are both of our starting DTs.
That's right.
So both our DTs, both our ends, and our starting linebacker are all listed on the injury report this week and possibly could not play. Now, I'm going to expect most of these boys to play. I expect Cooper and Njoku, Bitonio, Ward, and JOK to play. I think the biggest questions and the more important questions is, will Myles Garrett play and will Clowney play? Those are the big keys. This defense is missing them. If you have one of them, you can get by, but missing both of them, you're going to struggle, especially against a high-powered offense like the Chargers.
Austin Eckler's about to go off for 25 fantasy points against your Cleveland Browns.
So,
okay. So one more thing before we switch over, I wanted to talk about the Patriots. They've now lost two quarterbacks in back-to-back weeks. We're now on Bailey Zapp, and we just signed someone else, from the practice squad up.
Yeah.
So, do you want to see more of Bailey Zappi, or are you feeling that, that they're going to look for elsewhere?
So I would like to see a little bit out of the kid. Set the college record for touchdowns in a season, beat out Joe Burrow's record,
And
passing yards.
Yep.
So you want to see the kid get a chance, see what he can do. But I did see on the injury report, Mac Jones did practice this week. He was a limited participant. So I think that's speaking towards closer to that 3 to 4 week timetable on that high ankle sprain. But I think you got to go with Zap. He's been in the offense, for this year so far. He knows it better than the guy he just signed. I think you got to run with him.
All right.
Hear me out, Patriots fans. I got something for you. Sign Blake Bortles.
No, he's
He
retired.
just retired. He wants to be a construction worker and he wants to rip cigs.
Is that what he wants to do?
So have you not seen that interview? So Blake
I can't
Bortles
say I
had an
have.
interview when he was in LA, and he was asked by the reporter, "What would you be doing if you weren't playing football?" And he said, "Probably working construction, ripping cigs."
Man, I really wish that man came to quarterback for my New York Giants. I would have bought a Blake Bortles jersey in a heartbeat. I don't know why, but I love him as a quarterback, man. I understand everyone will be like, he's so bad. Why are you a fan of him? I really like.
He's just got grit. He's got toughness.
He's a gritty person.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, he'll come out there and he'll
Can't throw the ball, but he's got toughness.
Yeah, he'll throw 5 picks in one game, but he'll get in your face if you disrespect him. It's like, bro, you throw 5 picks, you're trash. It's like, yeah, we'll be nice.
All right, JT, you want to lead us into our pickems?
So the last segment, the pickems. So we all had the Broncos winning this week. That game did in fact go into overtime, 9-9. The Colts kicked a field goal in overtime.
Yeah.
The Broncos marched down the field to the red zone, went for it on 4th and 1, did not get it. Colts won 12-9.
So we all took an L early.
Oof. Okay. We all took an L. All right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Russ couldn't cook.
Also, so
Broncos
I have
country.
So
we tried.
Going back to last week.
I got
our
the
records,
right.
Dan.
Okay. So coming in last place was JT. He came out with a solid 7-8.
It was intentional. I wanted to give y'all boys a head start.
Oh, okay,
That's all it was.
Is that what it is? All right.
Just so you know, he did guess the first 6 wrong.
It's a talent. It was intentional. I'm telling you.
He went on a tear though, and guess a bunch. Then in second place we have Mr. Boosley at 9-6.
Let's go.
And I topped it off at 10-5. So right now that's where we stand. So I'm in first place, Mr. Boosley in second place, and JT's in last place. And we're still figuring out what the punishment is for whoever comes in last place in this little bet we got going on.
Yeah.
But when we figure out what it is, we'll definitely let you know.
Well, Dan,
definitely the
coming
punishment
off
for JT is paying for a plane ticket to get up here.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So Dan, you leading it off. You lead it off. You lead this. You're the winner off of last week. Take it away.
Okay. So the first game we got is the New York Giants versus the Packers out in London this week. Who do you boys have?
You know who I've got, Daniel.
I know you got the Giants, 100%.
I can't bet against Rodgers. I can't bet against Rodgers.
It
seems like they're starting to figure it out. The Giants got a lot of injuries. I'm gonna go with the Packers.
You're making a mistake, bud.
Okay, I know it seems rough, and I know JT, suffered early, but I'm gonna have to agree with JT. I feel like the Giants are just a little bit too hurt to make this game competitive, and especially with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon still being crazy, Aaron Rodgers figuring out passing the football. I think the Green Bay Packers are going to sneak one out over the Giants.
I will not turn my back on my squad. My New York Giants will find a way to win this football game.
All right. The next game is the Lions versus the Patriots. All right. This is a tough one. You know, as sad as it is to say, I think I'm gonna have to go with the Lions. They're a little bit too explosive on offense for the Patriots. You know, the whole bag. And even though the Lions didn't have everyone they needed to last week, they were still able to get out there, be electric playing, and I feel like they're gonna, be able to outshine the lackluster Patriots offense, and it's just gonna be who could score more points.
I'm gonna agree with you, Dan. The Patriots offense really struggled last week with Poyer and then with Zappi. I'm taking the Lions. I just don't trust that offense to be able to score enough points.
I'm also taking the Lions here. I think this might be a big week for Aiden Hutchinson coming up.
Okay, yeah, you think he's gonna get a couple sacks, break around that?
Yeah, I think he might
line?
get a couple sacks, maybe a couple TFLs.
Okay. All right. The next game, we're hopping over the JT's team now. We got the Chargers versus the Browns. All right, JT, who do you got in this matchup?
Do you turn your back on your team, JT?
Yeah, can you bet against them?
I think I have to, because you look back, we played against the Chargers last week. I don't like to say, or not last week, we played against the Chargers last year. And all that happened in that game was it was an utter shootout. Neither team could get stops, and that was with Myles Garrett playing. And we lost that game late. We're really hurt right now. We've struggled to stop the run. I don't feel like Clowney or Garrett's going to play this week. So I don't see how our defense is going to be able to get enough stops unless we get, 2 to 3 picks on Herbert. I don't really see that happening. I'm going to have to go with the Chargers. Chargers win a close game.
Okay. All right,
I'm also going to take Jay Herbo and the Chargers to go in there and take care of business.
Yeah, they're too electric right now. The Chargers, even hurt. Even
That's
hurt.
a good pun. They're electric.
Even hurt Jay
Got
Herbo
'em.
can outshine over the Browns hurt defense. Okay, so after that we got the Texans versus the Jaguars. Now the Jags did fall from grace last week when they lost to the Eagles. They had an early lead. Do you think they continue that struggle and Trevor Lawrence suffers to hold on to the football playing the Texans next week?
I hope that boy went through some ball protection drills this week in practice, because that was absolutely inexcusable for him to be fumbling that many times. But I feel like he has a good chance to kind of bounce back and pad the stats a little bit against a struggling Houston Texans team.
So you hit the Jags?
I'm gonna have to back it up. Jags are at home.
I'm going to take the Jags. Yeah, I'm going to take the Jags.
Are at home. Texans haven't won a game. The Jags have at least looked good. Their defense is getting turnovers. I don't expect that to change this week. Jags win.
Yep. I'm gonna have to continue with you boys. Until we see the Texans be able to put together a complete game, it's gonna be any team that is playing against the Texans.
Yeah.
Obviously they could be an 0-16 team because there's 17 games now. But
they do have a tie.
No, but they can still be 0-16. They just can't be 0-17.
Yeah, but they'll be 0-16-1.
No one cares about the extra one. All right. All right. So we got the Falcons who snuck one out over the Browns last week, and we had the Buccaneers who looked like they were a great defensive unit until they let up 40 something points to the Chiefs last week. So who do you guys got?
It's a tough one.
I'm going to say the Falcons.
All right.
I'm going to say the Falcons. Tom Brady he's not really putting together. He's dealing with some off the field problems, so I understand that. But I mean, his mind is definitely not on football.
And Brady was not at practice this week, which makes it tough for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Marcus Mariota could maybe squeeze it out and maybe make some things happen to get that running back duo going again, and maybe see if he can get Kyle Pitts involved. I think Kyle Pitts could actually be a pretty important piece going into this game if he can get his targets.
With Brady not practicing, I'm still gonna go with Brady. The Bucks defense is not weak in the run game. They're weak in the pass game. The Falcons have not been great passing the ball this year. I'm riding Bucks.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna also go with the Falcons with Mr. Boosie. I feel
Woo!
I just feel like the Falcons, caught a little rhythm last week, and that little grit and grind game to win it out. I feel like they're gonna ride that
Yeah.
confidence into the next game, whereas the Buccaneers just took a huge blow. They're dealing with the issues of Giselle, officially coming public with her divorce lawyer against Tom. I know Tom says he's married to the game, but I think this is a game for the Falcons, not the Buccaneers.
Hear me out, right? Tom Brady left his wife for a QBR rating worse than Geno Smith's.
This is true. This is true.
I don't know if you can blame it all on Tom Brady. He hasn't looked great this year, but also his receivers have been pretty hurt.
Yeah.
But it looks like he might be getting some guys back this week. Evans was a great, coming back off of that suspension. So I trust him.
Okay, so the next game I got the Dolphins and the Jets. We got a hurt Dolphins roster with Tua being out, and the Jets who just won in PA for the second time in like the past 40 years.
Jets.
So what do you boys have?
I like the Jets. I'm a Zach Wilson fan. I felt like the hate he got last year was not warranted. He made some mistakes, but he also would fix those mistakes and play better and learn from those mistakes. I think that with the reloaded wide receiver, Garrett Wilson coming in, he's still got Elijah Moore. They're bringing in a Brees Hall. I like Zach Wilson to continue to progress. I think again against a hurt Dolphins team, I think they sneak one out.
All right.
I think Brees Hall's going to stay hot, and I think Brees Hall's going to carry them to a win over the Dolphins.
Okay, so I think the Jets will also win, but for a different reason. I feel we're going to see the struggles of quarterback with the Dolphins and the defense playing as well as they did. I get it was against the Steelers last week, and Kenny Pickett wasn't credited with any of those picks. They're all considered picks caused by the receivers, but the Jets are still getting in plays. They're forcing those pass breakups and receivers not getting open, and I feel with Tua being out, you're going to have to take the Jets in this one. That Jets defense looked good last week, and I feel they can continue to be solid.
Now, I'm going to have to disagree with you on Kenny Pickett.
Nullified, right?
No, I mean, Tyreek Hill had a really good game last week with Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
But like he's kind of nullified now, though, right? Because there's going up against a team who's got a corner that can kind of run with him.
Possibly. You definitely still have the safety help on Tyreek. It's what does Tyreek do after the catch that matters. But I want to get back to that Kenny Pickett statement, Dan. You continue. You keep blaming the wide receivers for.
No. I was just saying that's what the Pro Football Focus said. They said they didn't credit any.
That's fine if that's what they say. But at some point, as a quarterback, you have to understand you cannot continue to keep throwing jump balls to your wide receivers when your 6'3" wide receiver is losing a jump ball to a 5'9" safety.
True.
At some point, you got to be smart enough to stop throwing those jump balls, and that's not all on the receivers. That's on the quarterback as well.
Well, I'd say if you're gonna blame any of them on you blame that second one on Kenny Pickett. That's probably a situation where he shouldn't have thrown the football. His first pick, it literally bounced right off of Claypool's hands. He felt like, the corner or safety was on his back, but there was no hand in his face or hand in between the ball. It just, bounced off his hands. And the third one was, garbage time where Kenny Pickett's trying to.
It was the Hail Mary.
Yeah, trying to rip a football to win the game. So.
Yeah, I think that third one, like maybe the third one's like not his fault, or like you don't really you kind of discount that one because he threw that in garbage time. It was a last second heave to the end zone. Like if he completed it, he's a hero. If not, whatever, it gets picked off or gets batted down. Yeah. But I feel like that interception isn't something you kind of hold against the kid because it was it's a situation in a game where you're not going to be in very many times.
Okay. So continue talking about the Steelers. We have the Steelers versus the Bills.
Mm.
So who do you guys got going in that game?
Easy, not even a question. Bills.
Bills.
I also have the Bills. I don't know if there's much need to be talked about this game, but
Nope. Bills.
the Bills are
Bills.
just a much better team.
Bills.
All
I
right.
think Gabriel
Next
Davis
question.
is going to have a great week this week.
All right. So after that, we got the Bears versus the Vikings. Now you boys were hating on the Vikings last week. You thought the Lions were going to sneak one out, or not the Lions. I forget who the Vikings played last week, but the Vikings were able to come out and do it. Oh, New Orleans over in London.
Now, I did say if they were able to get Justin Jefferson involved, they would win that game. I just didn't think it would happen because I don't trust Kirk Cousins.
Fair enough.
All right.
I think I agree with that statement as well.
So who do you boys got going in this week? Bears or Vikings?
The Bears are just such the most underwhelming team in the NFL. They expect their first round quarterback to carry their team. The talent around him is not built for that. He's not going to be able to do it, especially at his inexperience level. I'm going Vikings this week.
All right.
I'm gonna tag along. I'm also with Vikings this week. I feel like they're putting way too much pressure on Justin Fields, and Justin Fields is not gonna develop in a good way this way, playing for the Bears organization with the way things are now. They won't even pay Roquan Smith what he's worth. Like this team is just they're not making moves for their future or now. They're just being very stagnant with what they're doing with their team, and it's gonna really affect the development of Justin Fields.
Absolutely.
I think barring an act of God, like we saw against the 49ers, I feel like the Vikings are gonna win. They're a better team. They have their system down. The Vikings should come over this game. All right.
Absolutely.
And let's also put this out there. So far through 4 weeks, the Bears are 2-0 at home, 0-2 on the road. They're traveling to Minnesota.
All right.
All right. We'll see if those stats hold true.
Okay. After that, we got the Titans versus the Commanders.
This is a shithouse game.
Yeah. Either the Commanders front four is going to show up and stuff Derrick Henry, or they're not. That's what this game is going to be.
This is Derrick Henry he's got 300 rushing yards through 4 weeks. He's not as explosive as he was. I'm gonna make a wild pick, and we're gonna go with the Commanders.
Oof. Okay.
Okay.
That is a wild pick.
Are you taking the Titans?
I'm gonna have to take Tennessee Titans because I feel like that front. You know what? No, I think that front four is gonna show up and they're gonna win the game. I'll hop on JT's pick. I'll take the commies as well.
Okay. I'm gonna have to disagree with both of you boys. I feel like without Jahan Dotson, or if Jahan Dotson doesn't play, the Commanders don't have any offense going, and the Titans, were able to squeak one out last week. I get it was against the Colts, but I still feel like that Tennessee Titans, game plan is gonna wear down the Commanders, and they're gonna be able to sneak one out.
Okay.
All right. Next, we have the Seahawks versus the Saints. Seahawks came in last week, scored big, let up a lot of points, and the Saints, lost over in London against the Minnesota Vikings. So, what do you guys think about that?
I'm gonna take Geno Smith and the Seahawks.
All right.
Geno Smith's kind of rolling right now. I don't know, he's playing pretty good. The Seahawks are kind of fine. I mean, Rashad Penny is questionable to play, but I kind of like what they have going on there. I mean, if Geno can continue to put the ball in DK's hands and give the ball to his playmaker, their run game can be consistent. I feel like they could, be a little shocker to the Saints.
Okay.
What do you think, Dan?
I'm taking the Saints in this game. I feel like we saw Geno Smith get real hot and get a lot of hype the first week against the Broncos. I get he didn't put up, they didn't put up 45 points like they did, this past week when they played the Broncos. But Geno Smith did start the first half like 16-17. But I feel like, we might, I don't know if Geno Smith has, found his level of consistency yet. And I think that Saints defense is much better than the Vikings defense. And if they they can get pass rush, they got Cam Jordan and, that's a young O-line on the Seahawks side. I think the Saints are going to be able to sneak one out.
It's not even a young O-line, it's just a bad O-line.
Well, they're starting 2 rookie tackles on the Seahawks. Charles Cross is a rookie tackle, and the other tackle is the rookie as well. It's like the first time in a long time that this has happened.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because the Seahawks have been able to get their run game going the past 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And, that bodes well for getting DK Metcalf involved because, you get that defense sucked down and you can chuck some deep balls. And with Jameis being out, I don't know. I don't know if I trust the red rifle.
He looked good last week. I mean, I know he lost, but he looked good.
He got hit a lot.
Or as good as the
He got
red
hit a
rifle
lot
can
last
look.
week.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go Saints, but I think it'll be a close game, and the injuries on the Saints side could play a factor into this.
Okay. Next, we got the 49ers versus the Panthers. I feel like you have to go with the 49ers. Debo looked very good last week, playing with Jimmy Garoppolo again, and the Panthers really haven't showed anything since they played that close game week 1 against the Browns. So I feel like the 49ers offense is just going to be just a little bit more explosive, and Baker's not going to be able to keep up on the other end of the football.
Yeah,
having Jimmy G back in the lineup makes that San Francisco 49ers offense a well-oiled machine. It doesn't look as clunky with Trey Lance in the lineup. And I think George Kittle and Debo and the other playmakers they're going to make plays. I think Jimmy G is going to be able to take care of business.
Yeah, I'm going to have to back you boys up. Baker only looked stat-wise decent in that first game because the Browns' defensive miscommunications gave up a 60-yard touchdown pass uncontested. So I'm going to go Niners here. I think, Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead are going to be able to get enough pressure and wreak some havoc on Mayfield enough that he doesn't have a great game. McCaffrey is not playing at his previous elite level. I'm going Niners to win this one.
All right. Following that, we got the Eagles versus Cardinals. I feel like it's hard to bet against the Eagles until they lose.
Yeah.
They're playing elite football right now. A lot of people, were worried that the Jags could come in and stun them. I know we get a couple votes for the Jags to beat the Eagles last week, but I feel like the Eagles are that team to beat right now, and I feel like if you bet against the Eagles, you're stupid. And
I think it's a tough one. The Cardinals, the offenses look slow. The Eagles are churning right now. I'm also going to back you up and go Eagles.
I'm also going to unfortunately take the division rival Eagles. The Cardinals offense just looks sluggish out the gate, and I feel like more of the same is going to happen. The defense the Eagles have is not just gonna roll over.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
have a good defensive unit,
especially with JJ Watt. Being down from his heart problem.
Yeah.
Okay, but swinging into the next game, we got the Cowboys versus the Rams. I know we have the 3-0 Cooper Rush, but I don't think that Cooper has faced a corner like Jalen Ramsey before. And I feel like him playing against Jalen Ramsey could be that X factor that finally gets Cooper Rush's first loss. So I'm going to take the Rams in this game. You got, Stafford, the Cooper Kupp. I feel like Cooper Kupp is going to break down Trayvon Diggs. It's going to give me the Rams all day.
But didn't you just say it's kind of hard to bet against him until he loses for the Eagles? Isn't it the same thing with Cooper Rush?
Yeah, but that's a team. That's a scheme. they're playing good on both sides of the football. I get it's a similar situation, but Cooper Rush isn't on a whole team. He's just one player.
Yeah, I'm
gonna
also
go.
going to take the Rams for this matchup, by the way.
All right.
I'm going opposite reaction. Cowboys defense is playing very well right now. Micah Parsons is getting to the quarterback consistently. He's going to give Matthew Stafford some problems. You saw what happened in the Bills game when they were able to get pressure on him. I think it's going to be the same thing against Dallas. Cooper Kupp is not going to have the time to get deep. He's going to be a lot of short game because the pressure is going to be getting to Stafford. I think the Cowboys run the ball decent in the game. They win a tight one.
All right. Next we got the Bengals versus the Ravens and the Sunday night primetime game. Little division rivalry game going. Who do you boys have?
I'm going Bengals. They had the Ravens number last year. They bullied them both matchups. Ravens defense is choking late. They're not getting to the quarterback that aggressively this year. I think that gives Joe Burrow time to pass the ball. They can't. The Ravens last year were not able to guard Jamar Chase. I don't see that changing. Bengals win.
Okay.
I'm also going to take the Bengals here. I think Jamar Chase is going to run amok all over that defense because they've shown that they cannot guard him. So I expect to see more of the same. And Jamar Chase pretty much is running butt naked down the field for probably a good majority of the game, or at least attracting a lot of two safety looks.
Facts.
I'm not the go the opposite here. I'm gonna take the Ravens. I know they've struggled late, but it is a division game, and they've looked solid early. So I'm hoping that being that it's a division rival game, that they're gonna come out, they're gonna play hard, and they're gonna play a full 4 quarters instead of 2.5 or 3 quarters like they
Okay.
have played against in the previous couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go. Speed pick. I'm taking the Chiefs over the Raiders.
All right.
I'm taking the Chiefs over the Raiders.
I'm gonna take the Chiefs as well. They looked electric, 41 points last week.
So all of us pick the Chiefs.
So we all picked the Chiefs. This has been the Boyz and Ball Podcast. Bow!